Hey guys, welcome to episode 27 of Operation PlayStation, powered by Audio Technica. I'm one of your hosts, Dash, along with my co-host, Mr. Paul James. What is going on, Patch?
Cheers to getting platinums.
Oh, God.
Pinged a few this week, so we're having our celebratory drink now.
You're just, drinking a beer out of a platinum glass.
Beer out of a platinum glass. Beautiful thing.
Oh, God.
You jogged my memory, too, because you said you saw them in stores recently or something like that. And, oh, hang on, shit, I haven't done my one for Hybroxia and TBD.
You absolute nerd. I can't believe it.
It's a good feeling getting a platinum, and this is a beautiful glass.
You know what? That beer looks really nice, though.
Nothing fancy. I mean, unless James Sky wants to sponsor us, 150 lashes.
Beautiful.
We'll happily shill that beer. I mean, Betson's flogging off the man shake on FTP, so I reckon I can nab a sponsorship with James Squires. Sure, it might have the complete opposite effect.
Sorry, we already got a sponsor.
Man Shake designed to shed a few kgs, and this one to put a few on. But we'll balance each other out. It'll be
That's
great.
It. Guys, if you didn't know, this is Operation PlayStation-Gamer.com's dedicated PlayStation podcast. We dive deep and dirty and discover what the latest and greatest PlayStation have to offer in 2021. If you like what you hear, make sure that you subscribe to us over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also catch the VOD over on dashgamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, give us a like. Leave us a comment. Surely helps us out. Padge, housekeeping. Go for it.
So part 2 of Gamer School is out. Part 3 is going to be going live this Thursday. Mm-hmm. That will be the final part of that series. So next week, I know there's a few people who have been wanting the full video version. The full audio version has been out on the Dev Diary feed for a couple of weeks now.
Yep.
You want the full video in all its glory next Thursday. So stay tuned for that. But speaking of Dev Diary, the first episode of Dev Diary will be going up for the year this Thursday. So
nice.
So go check that out. It's starring. Based on good. Thanks. Featuring Sanat and Mishra. So some people know him from Witchbeam, so their work on Assault Android Cactus, but also notably last year in a little bit of controversy as it popped up, he was working on Golden Axe. Oh yeah. The cancelled Golden Axe title that Sega just dumped onto Steam at one point there. So he had some really cool things to share about that whole experience working with Sega Australia and on that title, and some really cool stuff came out of the conversation. So tune in to Dev Diary now.
Fantastic. Anything else?
Then I actually did some written stuff. So there's a review for Gears 5 Hivebusters. That's obviously an Xbox thing, but still really cool. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game, complete edition, thanks to Ubisoft. Yep. There's a ton of video stuff on the Player 2 YouTube channel. Lots of Player 2 players recently playing the Resident Evil demo,
which we'll get into in a bit,
and some to be determined reviews. I can't disclose them just yet, but some written stuff that I'm working on as well.
Fantastic. So check all that over on player2.net.au. For dashgamer.com, Hitman 3 review thanks to the kind folk over at Bandai Namco. Also a Little Nightmares 2 preview thanks to Bandai Namco.
I played that recently.
Yeah.
I played that demo that they put up on PlayStation Network.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
How good.
I was super keen on the original Little Nightmares, but just never got a chance to play it.
Yeah.
I fell in love with that demo, though it did crash on me during my Player 2 plays, which wasn't so great.
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World review thanks to the kind folk over at Ubisoft. 12 games to be excited for opinion piece that I wrote, so make sure you guys check that one out. Atelier Ryza 1 and 2 review should be live thanks to the kind folk over at Turn Left. And for those that are in the know, that we launched a Ko-fi, which is a crowdfunding resource, basically, that'll help us out. Kind of like Patreon, where you subscribe and you get exclusive perks, different things, basically. If you head over to dashgamer.com/Ko-fi, it'll take you directly there. You can take a look at some of the perks that we have. You can give as little as $2 a month and become an executive producer of our show, and I'll be listing them as we go throughout the show. Well, at the end of the show, basically,
But also explain it for me. And this, like, I guess there's going to be a few people listening now that aren't familiar with Ko-fi, and I'm actually like I've seen it about, but I don't really know the ins and outs. So you can subscribe a la a Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is you can also just do like one-off things. So essentially,
Correct.
I mean, Ko-fi, it's built on like coffee.
Yeah.
So it's you're spending a few bucks on the person, you're shouting them a coffee, basically.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So you can subscribe, as a few people have, and we'll talk about them soon.
Yeah.
But you can also just like it's just a one-off thing as well, if that's what.
So yeah, if you want, it's like a tip jar. So the basis of Ko-fi is it's a tip jar, but you can also enable subscription mode to it, and that's what I have now. So like, if you guys feel like you want to support Operation PlayStation, the Dash Gamer podcast, or any of the reviews that we do on the website, you can subscribe. We're honestly looking for like chump change, like $2 a month is the base. One we're looking for, just to become an executive producer of each of our podcasts every month. So that's pretty much it. And we're also looking at other tiers like an Xbox podcast, Dashing Home to Season 2, you'll get early access. And we're also looking at an anime podcast. Waiting for it. Oh, wow. Okay, you didn't say it. There it is. Yeah.
Just keep having pregnant pause.
Thanks. So yeah, make sure that you guys check her out at dashgamer.com/Ko-fi. All right, Padge, that's enough of that. Let's get into the news. All right, Padge, the first bit of news comes by way of The Guardian, of all places. This one's an interesting one. The Force Reawakens, Ubisoft working on the new open world Star Wars game. This was pretty big when it was first announced, because...
And you're such a Star Wars fan.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't wait for you to get really in deep with this.
Although details are sparse, fans are hopeful the game being developed by Massive is just the epic narrative adventure they are looking for. Ubisoft is working on a new open-world Star Wars adventure, the company has revealed. Development will be handled by the French publishers, Massive Studio, previously responsible for the online shooter series Tom Clancy's The Division. According to a report by Wired, production of the game is still in early stages and nothing has been revealed about the characters or setting or how the game will fit into the Star Wars cinematic universe. The project is being built using Massive's proprietary Snowdrop game engine under the Division's creative director Julian Girardi, I think it is. Maybe you're probably right. Yeah. Who also worked on the Prince of Persia and Far Cry franchise, so there's some hope there. In a blog spot about the announcement, Lucasfilm Games Vice President Douglas Riley said, quote, "We know that fans of Star Wars value the feeling of immersion, of being transported into the Star Wars galaxy and moving through richly detailed environments. It's fun to imagine what the team at Massive can do with Star Wars by bringing their innovative spirit and their commitment to quality," end quote. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. Padge, you being a Star Wars nerd, and me, no, I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I'm not.
Yeah, me being a Star Wars nerd and you being wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. This was interesting to see as somebody who's not really a Star Wars fan, but as a gamer, having the knowledge of the industry and noting that EA
deal.
Yeah. And it's still long-standing. Like, there is still... The deal expires in 2023. So this is confusing.
Now, the thing that's been weird about that, and no one is, at least as far as I've seen anyway, so please, if you're listening, watching, sound off in the comments or whatever, no one's clarified that people just keep saying 2023. Is that the end of 2023? Is 2023 the last year of the deal? Because I'm pretty sure this was announced in 2013. So that, 10 years would presumably be the end of that period. I'm not 100% clear on that.
But it doesn't matter.
Beginning or end? Well, no, but that's a whole 12 months there.
Yeah.
Depending on whether it's the beginning or the end. Now, I don't think that necessarily will have any major bearing on anything anyway, because I don't see this game being ready for 2023.
Yeah, no.
And 2024 is probably the more likely window anyway. Yeah. And in that time, we're going to see a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. And
for sure.
Apparently, EA is working on something else that's not Battlefront, which is interesting.
Weird, yeah.
But they're going to try and finish with a bang.
Yeah.
And ultimately, their partnership, it's not contractual anymore. There's no exclusivity to the whole thing, but they're going to be continuing to work on Star Wars games. So it's good in some sense that we're going to get other really talented developers in there, and we can take a lot about what this game is, even just based on the engine that's developed on. The Snowdrop engine really kind of tells us if you look at a lot of Ubisoft games, the Anvil engine is what you get from Assassin's Creed, and what we associate Assassin's Creed far more vertical than something like The Division, which is you're on a horizontal plane, and then like these engines obviously powering the nature of the game.
Yeah,
you could bounce all across the world, all across the galaxy, and all those sorts of things, but you're flat-footed. There's no real verticality to the whole thing. There's certain styles that you can kind of glean from this, so it tells a little bit about the game as well.
Yeah,
but there's some cool stuff because EA, I feel like they got off to a very rough start, and so we're all very negative about it, and justifiably so. But they seem to have slipped into gear recently. Now, maybe that was because they really wanted to retain the exclusivity beyond the first 10 years, and so they were, okay, we need to make some smart, maybe more consumer-focused decisions here. God forbid, EA. Some consumer-focused decisions here to win over the graces of the public, and by extension, Disney might be happy to stick with us. They did that, and Squadrons and Jedi Fallen Order are fantastic, but it wasn't enough, and I don't blame them.
There was way too many controversies that happened during their time with EA.
Battlefront 2.
It was the report that came out that Disney CEO was on the phone almost immediately following loot box controversy, and practically basically put the kibosh on it all and said no. It's not happening.
About Star Wars, yeah, I'm a fan of it, but they are trying to wring every single dollar out of their consumers.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't want to be perceived that way.
No.
And so when there's something so obviously on the nose as the whole Battlefront 2 scenario, they're going to try and stomp that down because they don't want to be perceived that way, even though that's 100% how they are. We all know that's the case.
Yeah.
Even, locking away Mandalorian behind Disney Plus and all those, first season's not out available on Blu-ray or anything like that if you wanted to. There's a lot of dodgy not dodgy. They're pretty. It's pretty normal sort of business practice, but they are trying to bring every.
It's not
trying to bring every dollar out. I mean, in terms of their films and all those sorts of things.
Oh yeah. No, I'm talking about the game stuff. Well, it's not normal practice. What's happening? No. The loot boxes, yeah. But what I'm saying is, throughout how this has been handled is what I'm saying. Everything that's been handled right now is not normal practice, because usually when an IP is transferred, there is that degree of, there's a no compete clause put somewhere there that says, okay, once it's out of your hands, is an immediate pickup. That's fine. That's when a contract runs out. But while the contract's still in play, the exclusivity rights still determine who actually publishes and develops at that specific time. And the fact that EA have those rights right now, but Ubisoft are developing a game, is confounding as somebody who's more on the journalistic side than a consumer. I sit here and I think to myself, where is the logistics behind it? Like, where are they getting this? How are they even allowed to do this right? Or even for a fact announce it?
Looking at it actually also from a business sense, I say that Disney came back and forced a renegotiation with, because no doubt, because Disney is the one with the upper hand here. No matter what happens, they're the IP holder, so they can turn around to EA and say, not only will we tear up this contract, but you will never ever develop another Star Wars game, and that's a ton of money to EA that disappears straight away.
Oh, look, Disney's one of the biggest companies in the world, so they probably hold that power, But
so they can come to the table and say, look, you've still got your exclusivity. Jedi Fallen Order 2 comes out in 2022, I reckon.
Yeah, probably.
Or the sequel to that, in that ballpark. We know Respawn's great and their turnaround is fantastic. You might have something else in the pipeline. That's all fantastic. Like, you've got the exclusive window still.
Yeah.
But we're renegotiating this one aspect, the non-complete thing. Non-compete. Non-compete. So that we can at least tell the world that other things are in the firing line. And if you don't agree to this, once those 2 games are out and this 10 years is done, you're done. It's an easy thing for them to leverage.
In a piece of news that's also following Star Wars, this one comes by James Varick over at Press Start, who says a new Knights of the Old Republic game looks to be on the way. He goes on, following the news that Ubisoft is working on a Star Wars game, it seems other developers will be taking a piece of the pie too. While it's early days, several reports have emerged that a new Knights of the Old Republic game is indeed in the works, but outside of EA. It's obviously a rumor at this point, but what we do know is that it's an, quote, unexpected team, end quote, though apparently this is more to do with the fact that it's a lesser known team than a surprising one. Star Wars Knight of the Old Republic originally released in 2003 for Xbox and PC and was a huge success with fans. Yep. Okay, so once again, it's not an EA developed Star Wars title. And then they're suggesting here, no, it's not Ubisoft. So again, what are they doing? Are they just basically saying we can shop around and see where this fits now?
Well, I mean, this obviously isn't supposed to be out. Like Disney's not coming out and or Lucas Arts are coming out and saying this. This is the likes of Jason Schreier's and those sort of guys that have been. And Jason's commented on this whole thing, and a few other like high end Jeff Grubbs and those sorts have also come out and spoken about this, and what they know about the whole scenario. So it's not supposed to be public knowledge yet. That said, I'm really interested to see where this scenario goes, and the reason I am is because of what Xbox has been doing lately. Now, this is me putting on the biased PlayStation hat. I'm concerned that this game may not make it to PlayStation because the pool of profile, and I don't necessarily mean like huge big names, but the pool of developers out there that can develop high-end Western RPGs, which is exactly what KOTOR is, and presumably a new title would be, has shrunk significantly recently because Xbox bought Bethesda.
Right.
So when I say that, I mean the number of developers that could produce a game that would come to PlayStation. Now, again, it could be one of those Bethesda developers, and
do you think it might be Bethesda that might be having a go?
Well, it could hypothetically be Bethesda, and Disney's going to force them to make it multi-platform because they do have that ability again. But
I don't know about that. But yeah.
But if it's not a Bethesda thing, it's just the pool of available developers that would then see the game release on PlayStation has shrunk significantly because of this whole Bethesda Xbox thing that's going to lead to a lot more exclusivity on the Xbox platform.
Correct.
There's not, think outside of, it's not EA from all reports, so that knocks out BioWare. CD Projekt Red, I think after what's recently gone on, you probably don't want to go near them, and it's clear that they're going to The Witcher next up anyway, and that's going to consume a lot of time. They've also got a lot of
we won't be seeing that until next gen.
Yeah, I don't know, that's 6-7 years now, so there's plenty of time.
I don't think we're going to be seeing that.
Okay, that'll be an interesting conversation at another point. But who else is left? Like big profile Western RPG developers, you would usually say Obsidian, but they've been bought. You could say In Exile, they've been bought. Bethesda, been bought. There's not many left. Guerrilla Games?
No.
But you wouldn't call them an RPG developer yet. Horizon is. But the number of developers out there has shrunk considerably. And again, someone's probably going to sing out in the comments with someone that's super obvious, and I've just forgotten them. Who knows? Maybe we see a KOTOR that's developed by the team that did. Dog. No. Developed by the team that did Disco Elysium for all.
Wow.
There's developers out there, but and we can't rule these sorts of things out because again, we've got teams like Larian, for example, that developed Divinity: Original Sin, Original Sin 2, and then all of a sudden they're doing Baldur's Gate 3. So there's teams that have been creating awesome but smaller scale RPGs that are then being trusted to take on big IP.
Yeah.
But there's none bigger than Star Wars, arguably. You could maybe talk about Marvel. Marvel might be right up there, but again, another Disney-owned property.
But it's again Disney. It's all Disney.
So there's just not that many developers out there anymore that are... And I guess that's why we could be saying it's an unexpected team. But I don't know. There's intrigue. Lots of intrigue.
You could be right that it's a Bethesda, though, because it's a good lead into the next story, which is again tied with a LucasArts cross Lucasfilms kind of adaptation here. This one comes directly from the source, Bethesda, who says Lucasfilm Games and Bethesda announce new Indiana Jones game. Today, Lucasfilm Games and Bethesda Softworks announced a new Indiana Jones game being developed for the award-winning studio Machine Games and executive produced by industry icon Todd Howard of Bethesda Game Studios. That's pretty big. It goes on. Basically, there was a tweet that put out a short teaser.
You see the whip, you see the hat, you hear a bit of the music. That's it.
And it goes on. While few details surrounding the indie game have been, and when it says indie game, they mean indie as in Indiana Jones. Indie game have been revealed. Bethesda released a cryptic teaser that may hold some clues. Quote: Todd is a lifelong indie fan and has been trying for over a decade to make this game. In quotes, said Pete Hines, SVP of Global Marketing. Quote: He's beyond excited to work with the award-winning Machine Games team. A perfect fit for indie. Okay, so apparently there were some teasers also in the past from Howard that he had like an indie hat in the background with a whip and all this kind of stuff. But I don't.
They confirmed that that's just because he's a massive hardcore.
Yeah.
This is more recent than what we've seen of him in other videos.
Yeah. I don't know about this because this is something that like again, and we spoke about this I think last week with Tomb Raider. When they rebooted Tomb Raider from, all the hype that Uncharted had. Is the time right to be releasing an indie game, an indie adaptation right now, you think? Like, the story's done. They've told the perfect trilogy, and I don't count the fourth one because the fourth one's just shit house.
Crystal Skull? What are you talking about? It's a classic. I love jumping in bridges and surviving nukes. No, I agree.
But do you think it's right?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like,
okay, why?
It depends on how they want to pitch it, though. Like, are they trying to link it into the cinematic universe, or is this
how else are they going to do it?
Separate thing entirely? Well, no, but like they can, like Indiana Jones. I know we associate with Harrison Ford, but obviously that can't be the case forever anyway.
No.
And hell, you could make me argue it shouldn't have been with Crystal Skull, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I don't think the franchise needs to end either. So there's an opportunity for him to, especially in video games where you can, the fact that it's not...
You can't deviate from Harrison Ford, man.
Yeah, but you don't need to necessarily use Harrison Ford. You don't need to use a lookalike either. There's an opportunity there to do something different. And I think, Crystal Skull didn't hit. So it's not like there was a new generation of indie fans that was formed from this.
But they're already planning a film.
Yeah, they are planning a film, and who knows what they'll do with that. It could be just Shia LaBeouf and...
No, Harrison Ford is signed on.
Oh yeah, and he could play Han Solo in Force Awakens and just get killed by people. Like, who cares? You've had long enough. It's spoilers. I think they've got an opportunity to create their own video game universe here, and it doesn't have to be directly attached to
the Wii game.
Well, yeah. I think, and again, like the intrigue and the main reason why I put this even in the doc for the show is the question mark around Bethesda, the fact that they're owned by Xbox. Yeah. Will it or won't it be exclusive? And they're not giving anything away. But again, this is an opportunity like Star Wars where Disney has the potential to say, no, we're giving you this. This is a great, like a massive gesture of trust and faith from us, but we can tell you to put it elsewhere if we want.
As much as I would love to agree with you in that stance, I feel like Bethesda still have that stronghold that they would turn around and tell them, we're an Xbox. Like Xbox would probably, Spencer himself would probably step in and go, they are an Xbox game studio. We own them. It's our property. They're our developers. If you want them and you want to utilize them, the game gets an exclusive term on Xbox at least for a year.
There might be some, whether it's timed exclusivity or extra exclusive features or whatever, that wouldn't be surprising in the slightest.
No.
But the big thing to note, and obviously the ink hasn't even been put on paper yet when it comes to the whole Bethesda Xbox deal. It's still just agreed in principle.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter was, and they were made very, very clear at the time, is the fact that they will still work separately to Xbox. Like Xbox is not going to be in there dictating terms about anything whatsoever. Bethesda is still Bethesda. They're just owned by Microsoft. Yeah. And of course, there's going to be exclusives that will come out of that. Of course. But they do have scope to... They're not going to be actively going, and we want to put it on PlayStation 5, or we're not going to make any more PlayStation exclusives after Ghostwire or whatever. But in the right circumstances, whether it's a Disney coming in and putting pressure on or whatever, they will still put games on PlayStation over in the future. And it's it's their own IP that they have the opportunity to do stuff with. If it's someone else's IP, like indie, like Star Wars, if that were to work out as well, that's at the behest of Disney, and it's probably why you're not going to see an exclusive Star Wars on a PlayStation or an exclusive indie on a PlayStation, because Sony won't budge from their stance. It's exclusive, or we don't want it, or it's some like a third party that's doing it, and it's going to come out there, because that's how stubborn they are. Xbox are better than PlayStation in that regard. They are willing to put their games on other platforms if that's what's required. See Minecraft, presumably a whole bunch
PC,
of things as well.
PC and Switch, you mean?
What's PC and Switch?
Well, Xbox have put games on PC and Switch.
Oh yeah, but even like Minecraft Dungeons, for example, PlayStation, and obviously the circumstances around Ghostwire and Deathloop are different, but I think we'll see more of that sort of thing in the future. Like I have never ever need to help grow. You might see on.
I understand what you're saying, but I've never ever considered the Minecraft developers exclusively part of the Xbox game studio, because they developed the game, and the game has always been a PC title that always got ported to multiple platforms. And I feel like now we're in a place where Xbox is starting to congregate, like they're starting to group all their assets and say, okay, the window has closed. It's now we just spent fucking billions of dollars on Bethesda. You think we're going to go anywhere else now? The games have got to start being exclusive here.
Yeah, and I think you'll see that with a lot of their own IP, but other scenarios, and this is again where other parties get involved, like a Disney. That's when the scenario can change, because
that's a power play. But that's a power play by Disney.
Yeah, well, it's money down the tube for Disney, and they don't want that.
No, of course not. But that's what I'm saying.
Especially when PlayStation, probably this entire generation, will be the dominant
console again. It'll be selling 2-1 again. Yeah,
and they're just not gonna accept the fact that they're only addressing 33% of the next gen market.
Correct. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Speaking of exclusivity, Final Fantasy VII Remake actually their exclusive rights. Yeah. Before we jump to the next story, Final Fantasy VII's Remake actually their exclusivity ends 5 weeks from today.
Soon. Yeah.
And that's going to be an interesting one. Do you think
that one to watch?
Do you think that they're going to be preparing to release that everywhere else, like as soon as that exclusivity is up? Do you think that March 4th, here it comes, Final Fantasy VII on PC and Xbox?
PC, yes. I'd see the Switch beforehand via cloud stuff.
Wow. Okay, that's a big call.
Well, I mean, I just think there's still a bit more buddy between Square Enix and Nintendo than there are Square Enix and Xbox. Not to say that the relationship's shit between those two, but
I think it's ambitious, but
it could also just be simultaneous for all of them, and that's probably the more likely scenario.
I think there's been a lot of embellishing with people who are a little too overambitious of having Remake end up on the Switch, regardless of the cloud status and all that stuff. I still feel like it's still too big of a game to end up on the Switch. Like, games that end up on the cloud don't perform that well anyway through the Switch. We've seen it.
I've heard some okay things about both Hitman, Control so far, and I haven't heard anything else about any other titles of it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about Australia, but again, that's our infrastructure. That's our problem here. Yeah. That's ScoMo's problem. Fuck with. But elsewhere, like by design, in countries that actually have decent internet, I've heard really good things. Yeah. So,
Page, the next one comes from Jordan Ollerman over at IGN, who says, God of War Studios' unannounced second project is seemingly still in the works. Sony Santa Monica's unannounced second project looks like it's still in the works, according to a job listing for an art director position at the studio. A tweet from the official Sony Santa Monica account notes that the studio is, quote, seeking an experienced art director for the development of a new unannounced title, end quote. There's not much else to go on the job listing itself beyond the fact that it's aiming to be a, quote, genre-defining, end quote, game, and that it will involve, quote, characters and creatures.
Because it's a video game.
Yeah. The job listing says, hot job, art director. We are seeking an experienced art director for the development of a new unannounced title. If you've got what it takes to guide and inspire our team to deliver the best in-class visual quality, apply here. So, Okay, I'm not going to read the rest.
There's a lot of speculation about this, and I actually think
it's not God of War.
It might be a good thing for us to actually discuss the next story and build this into it.
All right, fine. Then
there's a lot of conversation involving this next one as well that might be able to involve Santa Monica's IP.
So the next one comes from Liam Croft over at Push Square, who says Sony's secret San Diego team working on, quote, existing franchises. As per LinkedIn profile, former studio boss Michael Mumbauer. Okay. Sony's not so top secret San Diego studio is currently currently expanding, quote, upon existing franchises, end quote. The project is said to be a AAA action adventure game that utilizes proprietary and engine technology. Quote, this team was assembled to expand upon existing franchises and craft all new stories for the next generation of games, end quote. Why, hello there, Uncharted.
I keep telling you I'm right about this, but the reason why I suggested that we link these two here is because there is enough speculation as well. And if you think back to when we saw Ragnarok debuted, you didn't see the Sony Santa Monica logo feature in the whole thing at all.
Good point.
So I don't buy into it. I genuinely think that San Diego is working on
Sony Santa Monica would be working on it.
Yeah.
Not Uncharted, God of War.
Yes, yeah. Okay. I'm adamant that San Diego's working on Uncharted alongside MLB, and that Santa Monica's working on 2 titles, Ragnarok and this probably sci-fi thing that was scrapped years ago and they might be looking to bring back. The one that Corey Barlog's even kind of half teased with some of his Twitter profile pictures and headers and all those sorts of things. But there is a possibility based on what's going on at Santa Monica, and these things are kind of being announced in a degree of synchronicity here. There's a remote possibility it could be God of War as well that's coming out of out of San Diego. They could be doing Ragnarok. No. I don't think it's the case, but there is a possibility, and there's some threads that connect timing wise that mean you can't rule it out, I guess. But I do agree. I don't think it's the case. I think it's Uncharted there and Santa Monica with God of War.
Look, I'm starting to agree that Uncharted is possible to come out of San Diego, but it's more that a hopeful want of it not happening. I really don't want that. Oh, wait, you're incorrect. Right at the end, a Sony Santa Monica studio logo does appear at the end of that teaser.
Oh, really?
Yep. Oh. So there you go.
I never saw it. I've been...
Well, there you go. But either way, regardless of it, it's just that I think Betson actually mentioned on For the Players this week that he thought it could have been a possibility that could be the case. I'm going to disagree entirely.
No, I'm with you. I don't think it's the case.
But Uncharted, again, it's one of those things where they have to be very, very... I know that Sony, at the end of the day, Sony can delegate all these IPs to whichever studio they want. They can turn around and go, you don't develop Horizon anymore. Naughty Dog developing the next Horizon. Well, you're going to be handling the next Last of Us. And it's like, okay, that's a bit... You know, where do they draw the line? Is nothing sacred anymore? And
I don't think it's that. It like, and you use the perfect example by throwing Naughty Dog's name in there.
Right.
That studio has the power to dictate terms. No one else, and I'd even argue Santa Monica, like they've been a
bullshit.
Bullshit. I know God of War is sensational, but they have been a one IP studio for.
It doesn't matter. Look how many copies that game has sold.
No. But like they haven't splashed out anyway that say a Guerrilla has or a Naughty Dog has or Sucker Punch even, for example.
Okay.
Like or Insomniac, obviously.
Yeah.
They have been a one IP studio since God of War came out in 2005. So obviously then you had a few years before that with Jaffe developing it with them. They haven't done anything like different God of War since Connecticut, and that was however many years before that. Yeah. Like they haven't stretched their legs. And so I don't see them, like, if whatever they do, it's going to be their God of War and their own new IP. They're not going to go take on something else. Naughty Dog has that power. Insomniac will have that power. Guerrilla, they're probably the only 2 studios. Guerrilla's not there yet. They're starting to develop it, but they're still unproven.
Yeah.
Sucker Punch, again, like they don't have the scope, I don't think yet. I've got some theories about that I want to talk in our operation when I do the operation next episode.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to see what's starting to develop within those studios.
Look, I think that it'll be if it is Uncharted, I hope that they do it justice. I hope that it feels and plays like Uncharted, because it's worrisome sometimes when a new studio develops an established IP that has been out for ages, and devout fans like myself who absolutely adore Uncharted get their hands on and go, this isn't Uncharted.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone thinks that San Diego is developing this without a ton of Naughty Dog input, they're kidding themselves.
Oh yeah, for sure. The next one comes from Wesley Yinpool over at Eurogamer, who says, Take-Two walks away from Codemasters paving way for EA purchase. This was a big deal when this happened, because honestly, I thought Take-Two were a shoo-in for this. But anyway, Take-Two has allowed its offer for UK games company Codemasters to lapse, paving the way for EA to seal the deal. In November 2020, Borderlands and Grand Theft Auto publisher Take-Two agreed on a near $1 billion price tag to snap up racing giants Codemasters. But in December, EA swooped in with a $1.2 billion offer, which was accepted by Codemasters board. The Codemasters board. EA's offer is all cash, valuing Cody's at £6.04 for each. Okay, yeah, for each ordinary share. Oh shit, that's pretty big. Now Take-Two has officially
GameStop recently.
Yeah, I know. Now Take-Two has officially walked away, but insisted it's still on the hunt for game developers. Quote, Take-Two remains a highly disciplined organization, and with its strong balance sheet, will continue to pursue selectively organic and inorganic opportunities that are designed to enhance the company's long-term growth and deliver results to its shareholders, end quote, Take-Two said in a statement. I want to say something about Take-Two. They're a monopoly already. They already have enough. They have enough. They've got 2K. They've got Rockstar freaking London, or Rockstar freaking Mars. And all that stuff.
You got Rockstar, and so you got everything that falls under
exactly.
that. But they're all technically, they're really the one studio.
But then
GTA 5 all hands on deck to get those down.
Right, but then Take-Two have their own subsidiaries as well. They've got the
Gearbox
for each. Well, yeah, they have that, but they've also got their own separate studios for each game.
Yeah, for 2K Sports.
Yeah, NBA, WWE games
as well.
The newfound golf one that they just bought out. It's There's a whole. Oh, here we go, green screen again. There's a whole litany of studios under the Take-Two banner as it is. Another one added to it, like Codemasters. I believe it actually fits under EA rather than Take-Two. It's a racing game, and if anything, this is a perfect fit for the developers behind Need for Speed to kind of have a stronghold over now.
You talk monopolies, and EA's basically outside of Forza and
yeah, but you got Take-Two and EA. They're both monopolies in themselves.
Oh yeah, but I mean, looking at it from a consumer side in this particular case, I would rather see Take-Two get that, because there's more diversity there. You've got two different companies kind of going against each, and third parties, because again, you've got a separate race there that's being run between Forza and Gran Turismo with PlayStation and Xbox. I don't want to see Criterion. I don't want to see every racing game coming out of EA though.
But Criterion do a really good job, and if it's not Criterion,
and they've added the Cody's studios are fantastic. Like they do awesome racing games, but I don't want them all coming out of there, because they will all start to look and feel the same, and they'll get the EA microtransactions involved. And again, you'll still get that from Take-Two related stuff. You only have to look at NBA 2K, for example, to see how they try and bleed their players dry there. But I want to see more diversity in the titles.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that if they're all coming out of EA, because they'll all look to try and implement the same sorts of things, unless they're going to give them autonomy that Xbox is willing to give their studios, which they won't.
That's another thing too. You got Turn 10 and Playground who work on the Forza series, right? And that's the other thing. Like, if you're not willing to put in the work that those two studios do for that one franchise across Forza Motorsports and Forza Horizon, the only opposition it really has is the Need for Speed franchise from Criterion. And I realize that having the studio end up with Take-Two would have been a risk in itself, but the thing is, we already have a litany of other races out there that try their hand at going above and beyond all the two main franchises that I'm talking about, Need for Speed and Forza. and they
can't. These other races. What are these other races?
Assetto Corsa is one of them. Drive Club.
Well,
Gran
Drive Club.
Gran Turismo.
That to the point I made before, they're running a different race though, or driving a different race.
It's a racing title.
They're driving the race against Forza, and that's it. Motorsport specifically, obviously.
It doesn't matter.
Not Horizon.
It doesn't matter. Need for Speed is against Horizon.
No, I know. But PlayStation only cares about beating Forza. That's their competition. That's the race they're running because they just they want to have.
Yeah, but that's Gran Turismo you're talking, and Drive Club.
Well, let's ignore Drive Club because that's dead. Gran Turismo is only the bottom lines and all that sort of thing. Yeah, they're competing against Need for Speed, but they don't care about that. It's like how the consoles go. Yeah, sure, Nintendo's outselling us, but we don't care. We're in a competition between PlayStation and Xbox, and that's it.
And where does Assetto Corsa fall?
I don't know. I don't know anything about the Assetto Corsa.
I'd say Assetto Corsa is just an open field play, like for a Gran Turismo title that people want to play across both platforms.
Sort of thing?
No. Well, no. Assetto Corsa is more the circuit kind of game, the circuit motorsport kind of game. But again, it's one of those things where that'll try to compete against Forza. And then you've got this title now, this studio now coming into the fold with with EA. And Take-Two had that opportunity, but kind of walked away from it. I honestly think that they walked away from it knowing that maybe if they spent that money on it, they wouldn't have been able to pursue anything that would have had the same efforts that they could have put into like Grand Theft Auto 6, which people are like, come on, hurry up, quick.
Yeah, I don't see any connection there because they wouldn't be related. And
no, of course not. They're separate, but it's money and assets.
Rockstar in months, that's through GTA V-Bucks. No, not V-Bucks. Shark cards. That's just how profitable GTA is. So it surprised me that they didn't at least try and match him and then put the ball back in EA's court again. Because EA, okay, here's 800,000. Well, we'll put 800 million. We'll put 1.2 billion on the table. Just flop their cock out on the table. I'm surprised that Take-Two didn't at least test them, but maybe there was conversations behind the scenes like, well, what happens if we offer here? And we'll go, well, we'll beat you again. Like, well,
yeah,
there's no point.
Padge, the next one comes from Sammy Barker over at Push Square, who says Sony removed all the PS5 target dates from CES 2021 trailer. Oh, okay. While it's been a dismal start of the year for PlayStation news, we at least had a Sony sizzle trailer from CES 2021 to exhaust our collective editorial effort on. In it, the platform holder included some small print, which included target dates for a ton of titles, including Pragmata and Ken Bridges Spirit. While we didn't expect many of the intended windows to stick, it was interesting to know what kind of schedules developers had attached to the projects. The platform holder must have gotten a few dissatisfied calls the next day, however, as its YouTube upload at the same time upload of the same trailer has removed all of the target dates from the end of the clip. Gamatsu spotted the change with its eagle eyes as a tweet with both comparisons of both screenshots. So what does all this mean? Well, nothing really. The dates were always just internal targets, and while they could be taken as indication of roughly when to expect the games, they were never intended as confirmation. I'm concerned. I am concerned. Well, look, they had a target window. They've set a target window, but now there's like talk of some of these dates basically being pushed. And the only reason I'm concerned is because obviously like the COVID again is impacting a lot of the development. What? You got this?
I don't think that all those dates are 100% legit. The only one that maybe is a little bit murky is Project Athia, and that's because Square Enix is Square Enix. Like Square Enix is going to Square Enix. You had Pragmata and Athia as the big third-party exclusives.
Yep.
The trailer still shows the windows for all the PlayStation internal stuff.
Yep.
So it shows, it still states Ratchet, it still states Horizon 2021. It still has March 19 for Returnal. It's the indie style stuff that didn't get a date, and that's because I'm sure, and not every single publisher of these games would have arced up. But I'm sure a couple did. And they go, well, hang on, no, we weren't ready to announce this. Why did you put it up there? And they're going, fuck, yeah, we shouldn't have. Our bad. And so rather than going, we're going to remove just this one because they complained. Yeah. We're going to remove them all because otherwise we're putting other publishers in another situation at a point. We go, you remove theirs because they complained and you did the right thing to do so. But why didn't you remove mine? Because we hadn't announced that either. One in, all in is kind of the situation there. So, like, I 100% believe that Kena is still March. I still believe that Ghostwire is still October. Like, they're one of the ones that would have complained. Now, sorry, I forgot to mention them in the AAA thing, but, Ghostwire is October. There was one of the indies, I think maybe, was it Jet the Fast Short? No, I can't remember which one it was. There's all of those windows are still their current target windows. They might change because of game development in 2020 and 2021.
You think they removed it because there's a potential that they could be delayed, though?
No, they removed it because they should never have made that public in the first place.
Why?
Because these other publishers clearly didn't want them revealed yet. What indie title? If we think about Stray, I'm looking at the list now. Stray was the one that had the furthest out release date of October 2021. What indie publisher comes out with a release date 9 months before the game's supposed to come out? It doesn't happen.
No, not indie titles, no.
And Solar Ash June, that's also quite soon. It's not out of the realms of possibility, but that's still very early as well. Little Devil Inside July, like, you don't get that. Kena is the only one of those indie titles that seems like it's plausible for you to go, it's 2 months out. It's going to come out in March 2021. We'll give you a specific date in maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's because of those with it. Like, that's just not reasonable for an indie studio that's, sometimes, I don't know the exact size of some of these ones, but sometimes half a dozen people go 9 months from now, guarantee it'll be ready. Like, they're not affected by COVID in the same way because a lot of them, the scale of those studios, some of them were always remote work anyway.
Yeah.
But no, they shot their load too early. They shouldn't have. They stated some things they shouldn't have, and to play it safe, to respect all other parties, they ripped everything down except their own dates.
Like what you're hearing today? Be sure to follow all Dash Gamer podcasts on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify by simply typing dashgamer.com into the search bar of your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to check out our gaming, anime, and pop culture related news on dashgamer.com. Now back to the show.
Patch, the next one comes from Hiran Cryer over at Games Radar. Ghost of Tsushima sequel further hinted at in a new job listing. He says this is the second job that points to a sequel being in development. A new job listing at developer Sucker Punch points to a Ghost of Tsushima sequel being in production. A job listing on Sucker Punch's website calls for a combat designer who has, quote, played Ghost of Tsushima and understands its core combat systems. Additionally,
they're not even trying to hide it.
No. Additionally, the role calls for an individual who can, quote, polish and balance enemies' player abilities and progression systems. End quote, all of which were featured in Ghost of Tsushima when it launched last year. I'm disappointed. I wanted Infamous.
I think that franchise will come back, but it's not Sucker Punch.
What, you think they're going to hand it to San Diego as well?
No. I just mean, like, this could be similar to how Sansaru, and I guess conveniently enough, it's a Sucker Punch franchise.
You really think that Sucker Punch have moved on from Infamous, is what you're saying?
Yeah. I think they've moved on. Like, they're not a studio, and you look at their track record, they've not lingered. They did their 3 Sly games, they moved on to Infamous. They did their 3 and a bit, Infamous games with, First Light. And,
I still think that Infamous has more to tell, though.
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be like, so that's why I draw the comparison of Sanzaru, who actually picked up an old Sucker Punch IP in that particular case.
Fair enough.
They did Sly 4.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a studio like that that's got a real passion for Infamous, that will one day pitch PlayStation, go, this is what we want to do with this franchise. And it'll be the right pitch that Sony go, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think Sucker Punch are just looking to experiment and try other things. And maybe they'll come back one day. Maybe there's an itch with Nate Fox that still needs scratching.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just not, it's not on the immediate cards. I think we could see a third Ghost game before we see an Infamous out of Sucker Punch.
You don't think maybe it's downloadable content that they're putting out there again?
For Infamous, as in this?
For Ghost of Tsushima.
No, this is 100% a sequel.
You reckon?
Not a doubt in my mind. The hell, they've left it open for the sequel anyway, so they're gearing up for it. No, with Legend coming out, they're done with Infamous. Infamous Ghost, the first Ghost.
The next one comes from Jared Carvalho over at Game Rant, who says Puppeteer developer wants to make a sequel. Before moving on to direct the Demon Souls remake, SIE Worldwide Studios Gavin Moore pioneered the now cult classic title Puppeteer for the PlayStation 3. However, while responding to some fans familiar with the 8-year-old game, Moore has let it be known that how he would like to approach his older classic in a different direction than the remake of the PS3's Demon Souls. This acknowledgement of Puppeteer came after a fan responded to Moore's New Year wishes on Twitter, who asked to see the PlayStation 3 classic get either a remaster, if not the full Bluepoint remake treatment. In a response, Moore stated he wouldn't want to work on a remaster at this point, but would rather push for new stories with an expanded Puppeteer series.
Did you play Puppeteer?
I did, but I didn't beat it. I wasn't a huge fan. What about you?
I mean, yeah. Look, I'm not going to call myself a huge fan, but I played through to completion. I really enjoyed it, and I thought there was something to it. Now, they came out in that window where Sony was just pumping out exclusives every month, that and Starhawk and Sly 4 and all those that just didn't get the marketing dollar for them to really get seen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a degree of potential to that franchise that if harnessed, it's not going to be you're not going to be putting this in the Uncharted bracket. It's never going to do those sorts of numbers and sales. Like, it's always going to be that niche little thing. So the reason why I doubt that it'll ever come back is because Sony really seems to have lent more into we expect 10 million sales for this thing. Spider-Man, Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War. We expect those sorts of Horizon. We want those sorts of numbers. And they haven't really engaged with the really small stuff for a while. Mm-hmm. The closest we've got is Concrete Genie.
Mm.
And they're kind of their bottom rung, and I mean this in a respectful way. They're like their bottom rung studio with the cost of operating them is not huge.
It's not worth the hassle.
They can do small, and it's niche, and it's all right. This comes from SIE Japan, and they are a team that is already incredibly divided as is. They're juggling lots and spinning lots of different plates. Astrobot, for example, and they've got small teams within them. I don't know if they'd find the time for it, but the fact that it's being raised by Gavin Moore is heartening. It's to know it's still being thought of is nice.
The next one comes from our good friend Alex Walker over at Kotaku, who says, and this is a big one, Nacon acquires Australian developers Big Ant in $54.8 million deal. To be honest, they got ripped off. French video game publisher Nacon has just announced the acquisition of Big Ant Studios, creators of the Dodd Bradman Cricket 19 and AO Tennis sports games, for a, quote, maximum price of, end quote, $54.8 million. The total acquisition price is a little malleable, according to the official release. In the terms and conditions, Nacon has agreed to pay a net price of 15 million euros net cash and debt when the deal is signed, with another earn-out payable after March 31st, 2024. Financing aside, the deal is probably the most significant and sizable acquisition of an Australian studio in recent memory. Interestingly, Big Ant is aiming for 9.4 million in operating profit for 2021 to 2022. Notable only because it's quite rare to see the financials of any Australian gaming dev studio, given most of them aren't publicly traded companies.
And they're indie.
Yeah, the terms of the deal say, quote, net of cash and debt, end quote, but Big Ant CEO Ross Simons told Kotaku Australia that the studio, quote, has no debt and significant cash in the bank, end quote. Quote, this will result in a payment well in excess of 15 million euros, he said. Simons added that the deal has come together, quote, in weeks, not months, end quote, and was born out of their partnership with Nacon in developing Tennis World Tour 2 and AO Tennis 2. I mean, look, I've never been a big fan of Big Ant's titles, to be completely honest. I know like AFL games are being popular
They
amongst.
don't do that. That's Wicked Witch.
Oh, sorry, Wicked Witch. Sorry, who was it that did? Sorry, the Don Bradman. No,
The Bradman.
Don
games
Bradman games. Yeah, sorry, I got confused for a second there. Don Bradman games have been niche again. The AO tennis games.
Just to be clear, like, cricket games have been one of those things that have just kind of been. I mean, obviously, they're never going to do FIFA numbers or any of those sorts of things, but like they've been scoffed at for their quality and the fact that
But they fall under the same category as AFL Evolution.
Yeah, exactly. But recent years, so basically since Big Ant really took it on, they're really awesome sims.
I don't know, man. I look.
AO stuff, the first one I reviewed the first one and I was not a fan at all, and that was an interesting conversation when I met up for Ross Simmons for one of my very first Dev Diary episodes. He's like, what do you think? Well, I didn't like it, but
at least you were honest.
I heard pretty good things about AO Tennis 2, though I've not played it. The reason, and I was crunching some numbers in the meantime, so 54 million Aussie dollars?
Yeah.
That's a sixth of what Insomniac was bought for in Aussie dollars, so 300 million Aussie dollars. It converts the US to AUD conversion for Insomniac. They're not a sixth of the value. No offense, Ross. Sorry, they're not a sixth of the value of Insomniac. But the reason why it works, the reason why financially it makes sense, is because you make however much you make from the sale of AO Tennis 2 or 3. When that inevitably comes along, or the next cricket game, or whatever else they go on to do, because they do a whole bunch of other stuff as well. There's lacrosse games and those sort of things that we never see or hear of because they're even more niche, but the market's there, go for them.
Do you think they were looking for a buyer secretly, quietly? You don't think so?
They get themselves. They got cash in the bank.
But they're not a publicly traded company.
No, they didn't. Well, no, they're one of the few that are.
Wait,
locally.
So Big Ant were, is what you're saying. But Alex just stated that they weren't.
So it sticks out because the majority aren't. Big Ant were.
Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that's true.
But it's like they'll make, or it'll always be profitable for Nacon here, because not only will they make, like, they'll at least break even with the sales of the game, but then then on top of it, you get the money from in the case of tennis, the WTP, or the ICC for cricket, or whatever it is, when their money, because it's got that branding. It's the same way that the FIFA name, like whatever the governing body is for soccer. Is it FIFA? Yeah, I don't know.
I think so, yeah, pretty much. It wouldn't be Pro Evolution.
That the NBA is on NBA 2K games, that sort of thing. There's a financial thing that comes with that as well. So it's always going to be profitable for them.
Okay. The question that I'm going to pose to you out of this would be, do you think they overcompensated Big Ant?
No.
You think that Big Ant are worth that much in a buyout?
Because of the nature of what they're making. So there's the money that you get from the governing body of these various sports.
Yeah, like Cricket Australia and the Australian Open. And, yeah.
Plus the sales of the game on top of that.
All right, well, fair enough in that case then, yeah. Padge, the next story comes by way of some douchebag over at Player 2 who says, the Resident Evil Showcase recap, by the way, this is Padge who wrote this, the Resident Evil Showcase recap, he says, the much anticipated Resident Evil Showcase aired at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time this morning, and there was so much to take away regarding the future of the franchise, and specifically the upcoming Resident Evil Village. The first and most important piece of news emanating from the 20-plus minute stream hosted by What's Good Games' Brittany Brombaker was... Bromrock. I don't know. Fair enough. Was the fact that the newest entry in the franchise, Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8, would launch on PS5, Xbox Series X, and Steam, and it was revealed today the PS4 and Xbox One on May 7th, 2021. Those who buy the game on last generation consoles will benefit from a free upgrade to next-gen systems, assuming they keep their disc once they upgrade to new consoles. Outside of all the important release dates, we were presented with a frightening new trailer and a look at gameplay, including a host of new in-game mechanics like a block and kick ability, and the announcement of the multiplayer title Resident Evil Reverse. Don't let the confusing Kingdom Hearts as subtitle confuse you. There's nothing complex about this multiplayer title that will come free for all those who buy Village.
And the rest from here is basically me quoting some press release bits and pieces.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, let's talk about
demo. That's another important part of the whole
I
thing
haven't.
as well.
Have you?
Yeah, I've played it. There's a Player 2 plays up on the YouTube, the Player 2 YouTube channel now. So and it's excellent.
Who played it? Oh, did you play it?
Yeah, I played it.
Okay, cool. There you go.
I'm not one of those psychos out there that are thirsting over this bloody vampire. What
the
hell?
So that's that. Let's talk a little bit about this. It's basically one big internet meme that's happening right now, where a lot of people are just thirsting over this tall lady. There's
a lot of people getting rock hard over this woman, and it's weird. She's a virtual, not even real.
No.
Now I understand there's some people with fetishes and those sort of things, but and all whatever your thing is, you do you, mate. But this character isn't even real.
Lady Dimitri.
Yeah,
I'm not good with names. Look, it's become one big meme again. I don't understand this thirst that's happening, but you do you. Yeah, fair enough. Following up with more Resident Evil news from Liam Croft over at Push Square, who says Resident Evil 4 Remake targets 2023 launch after development reboot, says new report. The Resident Evil 4 Remake has undergone a bit of development reboot following a clash in direction, according to Video Games Chronicle. The site reports that Resident Evil 3 Team M2 has had its role dramatically reduced as Capcom Division 1 takes over production of the title, which according to VGC sources could push it back as far as 2023. The two studios have been unable to agree on a direction for the remake of what many consider to be the greatest Resident Evil entry. Following the backlash to last year's Resident Evil 3 remake, M2 supposedly wanted to create a very faithful remake that sticks to the template of Resident Evil 4. Capcom, meanwhile, wants the remake to introduce unique takes on those original features, story beats, and environments. Essentially, the developer wants to expand on what it already has rather than sticking to what it knows. Quote, sources said that the Resident Evil 4 remake would now be partially rebooted under the new mandate, which could see its release delayed by as much as a year to 2023, end quote. Capcom Division 1 is the team behind the mainline Resident Evil and Devil May Cry titles, so this report proved to be true. It's in even safer hands than before. Just get your shit in order and remake the title just as you've done for the past two. Who cares about trying to remake? Like, this is the thing. And I discussed this with Betson last night. Final Fantasy VII Remake was a fantastic remake of its title. But it wasn't hold on a second. It wasn't try and true. It wasn't all perfect. I mean, we've stated in many cases Sephiroth doesn't appear until like way later.
Oh, he should, yeah.
Right.
Shouldn't be in it.
But he was in the Midgar portion of spoilers. He was in the Midgar portion of the. I mean, it's already out there of the remake. So it's one of those things right now where we don't care about how it is or what it is. If there is a vision and it's put out there, and you want to know how to output it, remain faithful, but implement some new stuff that gives us a little bit more of a fresh take on Resident Evil 4. Not entirely, but something to sell us on.
I understand they might be a bit gun shy though, because the Resident Evil 2 one, where it was super to the core of what the game was, that was the one that people loved. As soon as they deviated a little bit, and admittedly, I think some of the changes were maybe, not that I'm the greatest student of Resident Evil in the world, but I know enough of the original Resident Evil 3 that they made really significant changes there, and there was a bit of a pushback for that. So what I think we're going to get from this, and sure, firstly, is a delay, but secondly is the sweet spot. Because what M2 has created, like assets-wise and those sort of things, and what they were starting to push down is presumably Resident Evil 4, kind of as we know it, basically a Blue Point style remake.
Yeah.
But then the core, the Capcom Division 1 team is going to get involved, and they're going to take that, and the mechanics will be solid already, and assets will probably stay the same, most of them. But they're going to do some things differently narratively and all those sorts of things that'll actually end up creating your sweet spot between 2 and 3 and ultimately your Final Fantasy VII remake style of experience.
It'll be interesting.
I think it could be a really good thing,
Oh,
despite the delay.
No, I agree with you. Padge, our second last story of the night comes by way of Ian Walker over at Kotaku, who says, long-awaited Biomutant launches May 25th. Biomutant, the post-apocalyptic furry RPG that was first revealed in 2017, is heading to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on May 25th. Publisher THQ Nordic announced this morning. Are you looking forward to this one?
I really was when it first debuted, and then it's just gotten quieter and quieter, and there was a demo that people liked the core of what was there, but it was really rough.
Yeah.
So I know there's talent working on the game, and that's what I'm holding on to, but I think it's going to become one of those games that I will need to see some reviews or be the one fortunate enough to be doing the reviewing myself before I consider picking it up, because the concept looks great.
Yep.
But the implementation, that's what's all going to boil down to at this point. And if they can nail it, then I think that this game could do very well and be received very well, might sell very well as well. But it's all just going to boil down to the execution. We've got no evidence at this point to suggest that in terms of the actual implementation, the final product is going to be squeaky clean, because we've seen and heard nothing. And the last time we did, wasn't received all that well.
Well, people remarked on how gorgeous its aesthetics were, and this teaser trailer that I'm playing right now is gorgeous. I mean, it looks nice, but it also kind of has that cheap finish to it as well that has me concerned.
A AA game?
Yeah, AA game kind of thing, yeah.
I don't know. I think it could, I really don't care whether the game's AA or AAA. Like, the visuals aren't the be all and end all to me, but
I don't know, some games kind of do need it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd argue that this one maybe isn't one that necessarily needs it.
Okay.
But again, it's it was choppy. Now, this was years ago, but it was choppy. There's weird sort of collision things that were not quite right from what I've seen and heard from some of the past demos that were available. There was a demo even at PAX a couple of years ago, and I think Matt Houston from the site played it, and he was a little bit like, I love what they're going for, but they aren't quite hitting the mark 100% yet. Now, that was years ago, and a lot can change, but I just hope that they've got that polish there, because that's, I think, maybe what's going to potentially be a deal breaker for a lot of people here. If they don't have the polish right, it could be over.
Sorry, Paige, this is the second last story of the night. This one comes from Jordan Ollerman over at IGN, who says, Playdead's next game is a multi-platform, third-person science fiction adventure. Some details have been revealed about the new project coming from the creators of Limbo and Inside. Playdead's currently untitled project will be a, quote, third-person science fiction adventure set in a remote corner of the universe, end quote, according to the job listing page on the studio's website. Within the technical director listing, the, quote, who are we, quote, section is lightly altered, adding that the game is being, quote, built for multiple platforms on Unreal Engine, end quote. The opening also mentions Playdead's company culture, noting that the studio's approach to development, quote, does not include crunching towards arbitrary deadlines, end quote. Some new art has also been listed. Yeah. Fair enough. It's a little dig.
Studio in the world.
A little dig to Cyberpunk and to CD Projekt Red there, but
yay.
And yeah. Okay, fair enough. I mean, Inside was pretty cool. So was Limbo. I like those games, but I feel like this might be something a little different. Probably from the screenshots, though, pertaining to the same or similar aesthetic that the aforementioned pretty much displayed and demonstrated. So.
Yeah, aesthetically has that silhouette-y sort of feel that the last two games did, but from what we're reading, mechanically could be quite different. And that's great, but there's still not a hell of a lot we know. But I'll put my faith in them because, look, I'm not as all about Inside as a lot of people are. I still really, but I'm not as, it's a 10 out of 10 that a lot of people were. But this is still arguably the most prestigious indie developer out in the world.
Yeah.
So you put your faith in them and trust them that they'll probably hit the mark again.
Yeah. Now the final story of the night comes by way of DualShock's Sam Woods, and you know what? I'm not surprised. The Uncharted movie gets another delay. This time until 2022. The movie will now release on February 11, 2022. Sony Pictures has confirmed that the Uncharted movie, which was scheduled for release in July this year, has been delayed until February 11, 2022. Uncharted joined Ghostbusters Afterlife, Cinderella, and Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway in this recent batch of delays. The movie has already had a troubled production cycle. We know about all this.
All that because it's not related to any of that.
This delay is caused by COVID.
Because again, like the latest Bond movie got delayed again. Like until the US is up and running properly, we're just going to continue to see film delays. And
Uncharted unfortunately falls under that one. And the thing is, they've already confirmed, like Tom Holland himself has confirmed that the film has been...
It's done.
It's done. It's wrapped. And
it would be ready to release in its usual date.
Yeah. But it's not going to, because they don't want to miss out on all the dough that they could make in cinema. The problem is, we're not going to... If at the stage that we're at the moment, with COVID in like Melbourne and Australia itself, not having a lot of things open and just practically having these cinemas open just now, how do they foresee cinemas opening in America at all within the next 2, 3, 4 years with the numbers that they have daily there?
Yeah, no, it's insane, and that's why we're seeing all these delays. And the only thing that's really going to save them, not too different to Europe at the moment, is the vaccine, because they're just, especially if you take a look at the Netherlands overnight in the last few days, they've been rioting in the streets.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
the French's job. What the hell? That's totally based in fact and history, by the way. I'm not just French's expense, though I like to do that sometimes.
Oh god,
it's just. The world's not putting itself together easily. It's going to take a vaccine to get the job done at this point. So these things are going to continue to happen. And God bless video games, because it doesn't matter. We can do it from our own homes.
PlayStation.
All right, Padge. Thanks to the kind folk over at Bandai Namco, we got our hands on an early hands-on Hitman 3, obviously developed by IO Interactive. So. Yeah, this is their third entry into their reboot of the franchise. So it kind of follows it follows Agent 47 when he began his career, rather than when the franchise began way back on PlayStation 2, when he was already in the midst of being a hitman. So this is the early beginnings of Hitman. But the third entry of the reboot follows up on all the events that have happened prior to Hitman 3 and kind of continues on in continuity from that as well. So I know that this is your first experience playing a Hitman game
first
at
Hitman
all.
Game. Of any of them, the old, the new, hadn't played any of them up until now.
Tell me your thoughts on playing Hitman 3.
So I really like all of the design stuff that they've gone with there. Like it all just, and these are all things I think, anyone knows whether they've played the franchise or not. Like you have a really clear understanding of what they're going for there. There's kind of a sandbox within a contained space, of course, but kind of a sandbox there available to you. And within that, you've got a million ways in which you can skin a cat. You just need to take out the targets. That's what it boils down to. Find intel along the way, be resourceful, or not, go all guns blazing and try and get out there if you get out of there if you can.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my approach in the end. It was this weird middle ground. I knew what I needed to do. I knew that I needed to play like a really stealthy sort of thing. And I've played enough stealth games to know the fundamentals of those mechanics there. But it ended up boiling down. It's just some of the little systems there. Like when it comes to a lot of stealth games, not all, but a lot of stealth games, if you get seen at some point, and then you go covert for a good lengthy period of time, that's it.
Yeah.
They'll disappear and they'll get off your tail.
Yeah.
And they kind of do here as well, but they'll recognize you if you surface again and you're in the same attire.
Yeah.
So there was these little lessons I'm learning along the way, which is, okay, so I killed someone while I was wearing this. Yeah. And it was a necessary kill in some cases. In others it was, hey, you're there, room's on your own, I'll kill you and throw you into a thing.
Yeah.
Or I'll push you off the edge of the
non-target
stairs.
kills, yeah.
Because the first mission's set in this really high, like this massive tower in Dubai. And there was a woman there standing by the side on her own. I'm like, let's see what it'll happen. Oh, it allows me to push her. Boom, over the edge. And just nothing after that, like just disappeared. Which is kind of cool. I guess it's like Cloud City in Star Wars. Yeah. But so like there was a few little lessons I was learning along the hard way there, but I started to get into a bit of rhythm for things. It ended up boiling down to, okay, I've taken out this guy. I'm in this attire. I think we can spoil enough of it in this respect.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, spoiler warning.
The target, the second of the two targets in the first mission there, he's a suit, and he's got a few high-end security guards kind of tailing him. And I managed to take out one without getting noticed. So I swapped into his gear because that would I thought, that'll allow me to get into the room because he'll think I'm one of them. But his other security guard goes, well, you're not the same. Like, you're wearing his gear. You're not the same guy. I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah. Okay. So I got busted, shot my target, and then tried to find a way to get out of there as quickly as I could. Thankfully, there was a guy that I'd taken out previously. His body and his attire was still laying on the ground there. So I quickly changed and managed to disappear as a result.
Yeah.
So what I can really appreciate is that for players who have a greater sense of the franchise and they're tuned in and they understand how it works, the fact that like you can be so meticulous and plan all these things out, like I made the end of that sound as though it was like a plan. Go in all guns blazing, take the guy out, and then just swap clothes, and boom, I've disappeared.
Mm.
That was a sheer accident in that particular case, and me just kind of stumbling and bumbling and hang on, let me change clothes. No one knows it's me anymore.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But there's just so much planning that can go into this thing in advance, and you can just make yourself disappear. And the avenues to escape, the avenues that are available to you to take the targets out in the first place. Like I was watching the two targets on the map, and they're moving all over the place regularly. So there's lots of different opportunities and ways to do it. Do you want to poison them? Do you want to just come up and shoot them? Do you wait until in this room here, they're separated from everyone for just 10 seconds? Am I going to wait in this room and boom, take them out? Like, the options there are fantastic, and I love it. It's just not because it's not really the strength of mine.
Yeah,
it's just not necessarily a poor game as much as I loved what I played.
Look, I feel like because I played the entire reboot, I never really I played. I think the first one on PlayStation 2. I never really appreciated it as much as many people did. I was more into in terms of espionage kind of games or stealth games, I was more into Splinter Cell, Metal Gear. So those were my kind of games. I felt like Hitman on PlayStation 2 was a little too slow for my taste. Upon the reboot that they've done here with this series, I've really come to appreciate Hitman for being more slow and steady, a concentrated type of game now where you basically have to think before you act because it could lead you into strife. Obviously, you probably died a couple of times.
Yeah, I did die a few times, but I expected that at the beginning because I was having to find my sea legs and really understand how some of these systems work. I was going in incredibly blind.
Yeah.
And had a cursory knowledge, and that was about it.
Yeah. So for me, because I had already played the first two, I pretty much knew what to expect. They haven't really changed a lot in terms of presentation, even just even the UI. The UI is exactly the same.
Don't change what's not broken.
Not broken. So it's simple. It's clean. It's clean cut. It's basically made for people who have actually played the first two and understand everything already. So there is a bit of basics to know about Hitman before you jump into Hitman 3. If anything, they actually, when you begin the game and the menu pops up, the main menu, it actually says, have you played Hitman 1 and 2? Would you like to transfer your saves over? By the way, I want to stress that myself and Paul played on PlayStation 5. This is the PlayStation 5 version of it.
Is available on PS4 as well.
Correct, yeah. But when you begin the game, it actually shows up on the menu, hey, would you like to get Hitman 1 and 2? And if you already own 2, would you like to transfer the save? So it actually stresses, this is an entire story that it's
an arc.
Yeah, you would like to, follow Agent 47's early beginnings, and up to Hitman 2 and 3. So it's really, really, I love that. I love the fact that they tied it all in together. Now, I can't go into the story too much because I'm still technically tied by embargo. But from what I can tell, that this is essentially IO wrapping up the early phase of Hitman. I don't know.
This is a trilogy, and this ends that what do they call it? The World of Assassination or whatever.
Correct. Yeah, that's
arc.
what the arc is called. Yeah. So I'm not too sure where they're going to go with Hitman after this. Whether they're going to basically retcon the entire franchise that came before it in terms of its story, and go from 3 to a 4, or what they're going to do.
No, I mean, what they're doing here is basically what Crystal Dynamics has done with Tomb Raider, where the prequels have been the most recent titles, and they'll fit just in line with all the Lara Croft stuff that came afterwards, and it gives, whenever Crystal or whoever it is goes back to Tomb Raider, it gives them all the scope in the world to go, do we want to continue with this in this period in the middle here? Do we want to be
do you think that it's
older, more experienced Lara? And you could do a similar sort of thing for Hitman, I'm sure.
But do you think did they really necessarily say that it was a prequel? I thought that was initially a reboot, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all just set before...
So it's before the events.
Like it's a rebooting the franchise in the sense that let's rebuild the gameplay and all that sort of thing. But narrative wise, it's
linear. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what they're doing with Hitman?
I mean, I don't know that franchise nearly as well, but it's following the same sort of pattern here. Like you've got the established franchise in the way it was, and now you've got these 3 prequel titles.
Yeah.
They're done.
Well, that's the thing. They do make note.
I don't know what the time gap is between the end of Hitman 3 and then the first Hitman.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know the story of it well enough, so I don't know if the first Hitman is then sequentially in order. Like, do they all?
Yeah. See, that's the thing too.
Follow up each other narratively, or
these
the story bounce all over the shop?
These tie in more of the events that happened in the game prior to this series, which was Absolution.
Absolution?
Yeah. So, I don't know whether they're just going basically around in a circle and just like starting over again, or what they're going to do from here. This is like one of those things now where do they go, okay, well, let's just make another Hitman Contracts and kind of just go from there, or do they just retcon the entire franchise again, or do they reboot it and remake the first game? There's those questions that are up in the air from playing this. However,
they can just go Final Fantasy VII Remake, like timeline style.
Sephiroth just appears out of nowhere. But from what I did enjoy from Hitman 3, obviously what you mentioned there, there's obviously there's 5 levels in total, or 5 worlds that you can go through in total, and each of them have their own targets and everything else, much like the first one in Dubai did. And you're seeing the footage on screen right now of Dubai as well, the Dubai level. But from what I played, it's essentially the same. So if you played Hitman 1 and 2 and you love those games, you are going to absolutely love Hitman 3. Oh, and I'll make mention as well, on next gen units, it looks stunning. Like, this is...
It's gorgeous.
You can definitely tell that the ray tracing is doing a lot of work here as well. A lot of reflections, a lot of lighting that's working as well.
I mean, that tower, like,
it was
you
beautiful.
Get on the outside of it because there's a period where you're kind of skydiving in, and then even just as you're navigating it, you can get to the outside of the building if you need, and you just can't see shit because the lights are just, as you would expect, a tower that's that far in the sky. Yeah. It's reaching beyond the clouds even.
Yeah.
You just got sunlight beaming straight against that thing, and you look at it, it just blinds you.
Yeah. It's gorgeous though.
And even like internally, there's certain rooms that, it's meant to be the one-way glass, and so if you're on the wrong side of that, the way the light's kind of hitting that and then just fragmenting so that you can't actually see it, like it's really quite cool. Yeah,
it leaks right into like the lens of your perspective basically, and it's like I've just said a couple of times, it's gorgeous. And I don't know, I'm not sure how it looks on PlayStation 4, but I can only guess that the next gen version of this game really emphasizes that push for ray tracing. Graphical enhancements that have been made as well towards it, including textures, remapping for models. It just really, really shines, and I'm glad that we're getting to experience this on PlayStation 5, because the thing was, I really thought that the PlayStation 4 versions of Hitman were great, but there was always something about Agent 47's model on the PlayStation 4 that made me think, man, very base template compared to like his Absolution model. But part of me was like, obviously, that they were trying to make him look younger. I didn't think the same here. I thought that they did a marvelous job in basically everything that they did. So looks great.
Yeah, good.
Fantastic
One
game.
thing while we're talking about kind of the visual side of things. So again, this is not a technical thing.
Yeah.
More of a stylistic thing.
Yeah.
With that, and I think a lot of people can see it anyway because the intro cutscene's actually available on the internet anyway. So if you're watching it without playing, you can go and check that out. But just the filmic style they were going for there with the text that's appearing on the screen. And and like some of the animations showing, okay, here's the mission. We're going to be inserting here and doing this and this and this. And like, oh my god, this looks like it could come from a movie.
Yeah.
It fits right in a Bond film or something like that. Like
It really does. Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
So I really love that style that they had as well.
What did you think of using loose objects around the area as well as weaponry? I felt like, even picking up a wrench and just piffing it at somebody's head was a fantastic cinematic in its own.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that, and little things that you find a coin on the ground. Okay, well, I'll just flick the coin over here, lure this prick over here, bang, take you out, throw you in a box.
Yeah.
Take your key card, that sort of thing. No, I mean, you got to be resourceful. There's plenty of stuff to find. I wish I could find the poison. I didn't know where I was supposed to get all my poison organized so I could potentially poison a target instead. But whatever. That's the great nature of these games.
Yeah,
is that you can again skin the cat a million different ways, and
those
who are really meticulous are going to find what they need and go and do it that way.
Yeah, that freeform approach. Yeah, there is an appreciation for that freeform approach that really kind of prolongs the experience as well. Like there is that speedrunner method where you can walk in, basically guns blazing, and find your target, eliminate them, and leave if you can survive that easily. Yeah. And there are people, I've seen it done. I've seen some speedruns on Hitman 2 that are just absolutely confounding, to be completely honest. Like I was just like, man, how did these people do it? But the best method, obviously, is to go in meticulously and carefully craft or pave your path towards eliminating your target.
Yeah. So how long did it take? And this is again my lack of knowledge of the franchise kind of shining through here, and being meticulous and all that sort of thing. The first mission, because it's the only thing I've played. You've obviously played the entire game.
Yep.
How long did it take you to wrap up that first mission, and how much did you do? Because at the end of the mission, it then it starts filling in all the things that you've done. How long roughly did it take you? Because you're talking about being meticulous and all that sort of thing.
So I did a good bulk of what you just mentioned at the end, where it shows all the objectives.
It lights up all the things that you've completed.
Yeah. The first mission took me around about 4 hours.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. So
and here's the point of difference. Mine was done in 55 minutes.
Right. But here's the thing,
I got next to nothing done.
Here's the thing too, because it just popped up on screen and I'm watching some footage of it right now. You can make mistakes that basically trap you. So that's obviously something that you haven't landed in, right?
I did. There was a server.
Yeah, that's where it is right now.
I went into a server room and picked the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Set the alarms off. Doors closed, and they're like, hide. And so I did. And this was the bit that was weird. I guess I'd taken out a few guards near the door on my way in.
Yeah.
So the alarms are going off, and no one came to the door for 5 minutes. I'm like, what the hell? Am I just trapped in here now?
Pretty
and
much.
then one little dude just kind of got, I could see the little dot on the map. He got kind of close.
Yeah.
So I took my gun out and shot at the door to make some noise, just to go, hey, come over here and
come
try
and
and
open
kill
the door.
because I can't get out. And so I did, killed him and took off again.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's little bottlenecks. They're out to get you.
Yeah. So that
I found it later on, because I died sometime after that. And I stumbled across that server room again. I go, no, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Turn around and left.
So I did the same. I pulled it on the server and it set off the alarms. But the guy came straight away. I hid behind.
You clearly didn't kill everyone that was nearby.
So, no, exactly. So what happened though is he came into the room. He walked. So I hid behind one of the servers that were to the right of the door, and he walked in. And as he walked in, I went behind him, closed the door, choked him out, dressed up as him, and left. Like just nonchalantly walked out. Yep. And all these security guards are running by me and going to the server room.
Well, that was kind of the cool thing, like I was talking before, that I really only discovered at the end there through happenstance with that first mission. That I killed the final target for the mission. I was up to that point where I just needed to escape. I'm going, oh, shit, what do I do? And thankfully there was a dead body that I'd left in a bathroom there, so and his outfit was still there, so I just changed into that.
Yeah.
And disappeared and walked out, and everyone wasn't looking for me. No one was looking for me.
Yeah, so even though you've been compromised, not everybody will be sus of you, and that's a good thing too, because like those are also traps in themselves as well. Because if you get spotted killing somebody, you essentially have to hide.
That one person remembers.
Yeah,
Even
and then
if
they tell
everyone
everybody.
else has forgotten because they don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Like there was, some people within that were in the same, role as others.
Yeah,
and they knew about me and others didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like one person out of a group of 10. So I'm like, well, I still can't go walk through here because if that one person sees me, all 10 of them are after me.
Yeah. So
which is quite cool.
So the thing is, in every mission, the targets or target that you have to kill, there is a lead up to a specific scenario. So like you said, you can skin the cat a million ways, but the thing is, there's always that one scenario that the game tries to push. It's saying basically, this is the moment where you're supposed to kill them. Cinematically, narratively, this is the moment you're supposed to kill them. You can do it prior, you can do it after, but there is a perfect moment within the mission to basically eliminate your target. So take that into account. If you guys are playing and you don't know when or where, give it some time. It will eventuate and you will get your perfect moment to kill them.
Watch their movements.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you do get that perfect moment where nobody's around and they're right there, shoot them. But that's about it.
Choke them out, whatever. Snap their neck.
Once again, thanks to the kind folk over at Bandai Namco who supplied this copy of Hitman 3 on PlayStation 5. Alright, Patch, time for the PlayStation pick. What is your pick this week?
The GOAT. It's Final Fantasy 9. I've been just dancing around this one for a long, long time. But Final Fantasy 9 is, in my opinion, my humble opinion, but the greatest game, not only in the Final Fantasy franchise, but the greatest Final Fantasy of all time. No, Final Fantasy 7, especially Remake, is not.
How dare you?
Sorry, that was me being very flippant about Remake. Remake's fantastic, as is Final Fantasy 7, but it's not Final Fantasy 9. And the only reason, the main reason for that, and I'm comparing 9 to the original 7.
I can't wait for you to talk about Uncharted 3. Go on.
Yeah, one day. It's totally boils down to that story.
Right.
And for me, and the reason maybe why I have some people say I have an inflated opinion on it. I still, I'll continue to just throw out there that the creator of the franchise himself also says that 9 is the best. So I've got him in my corner and we're good. But
he doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Purely on my own opinions here. A lot of my love of that game really stemmed from just the timing it came out. It came out 2000, 2001. So I'm a teenager at this point, or almost there. You know what a lot of teenagers go through. There's identity and those sorts of things and that's one of the main themes of Final Fantasy 9. I really attached myself to Vivi in particular, the little black mage who's having an almighty identity crisis, and he's discovering there's basically these clones of himself, and coming to grips with who cares about them. I am who I am, and blah 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 blah. And those are the sort of things that, again, as a team, everyone kind of goes through that, and that's where I was kind of at. And I just keep replaying the game and kind of re-experiencing that story. And it was a great feel-good thing as all the characters go through their own respective equivalents of that sort of theme. And then if you ignore the narrative side of it, it's traditional Final Fantasy, and it's amazing to play. So visually, it was a nice change of pace given what we'd seen from 7 and 8 previously.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to hang shit on 7 in terms of the blocky limbs and that, because that's a technological constraint.
Exactly.
But they were going for quote unquote realism back in the day, especially 8. Squall's face didn't really show that. 9 kind of lent more into a slightly more cartoony sort of feel.
More like a Kingdom Hearts game than anything, but yeah.
A little bit in terms of that, obviously well before Kingdom Hearts itself ever emerged.
Correct,
but it's just such a good game. Right time, right place, but just such a good game.
All right, Page, time for the PlayStation operation for the week. And my operation for this week is restocking. We're getting to a point now where it's ridiculous that it's I mean, it's good. It's good news that PlayStations are selling out in terms of, money and, it's just popularity of it. It's great. But the fact that now we're heading to February, 4 months after its release, or 3 months, I should say, after its release, and there's the need for stock to actually be restocked. Like, I understand it's been hard, it's been tough. COVID has kind of impacted manufacturing.
Right away too.
What's that? Sorry?
They go online and they disappear right away as well.
Correct,
we had Target and Harvey Norman all list them last week, and they disappeared within 5 to 10 minutes.
Correct, yeah. I had to, like, I really, really want to get my hands on the digital edition as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got the physical, obviously, but I really want a digital version as well. But I can't. I just can't find it anywhere, and it's a pain in the ass. And not only for myself, but for like consumers who want to buy it as a gift for their kids or even just for themselves to enjoy. The problem is, I've seen listings for scalpers who are selling them at like exorbitant fees on eBay, and then like PlayStation themselves haven't really lifted their game in terms of how many consoles were they forecasted for, how many they were going to sell at launch, and that's a major issue. They could have said, okay, we're going to be selling more than this, way more than this, and they could have, but again, I got the partial blame on COVID, partial blame on Sony's part. It's just one big kerfuffle right now. Sony really need to step up their game now, because we're at a point where manufacturing, like we are at a new normal. I hate saying that because I don't like saying the new normal thing, but we're at a new normal now where we understand what COVID is. Manufacturing can kind of stabilize and get more units out on shelves, because for gamers who really want to get into it, they're not experiencing some of the best that PlayStation 5 has. So, come on.
And they stand to miss some of it because Returnal and Ratchet are coming, and they're PlayStation 5 exclusive, and you may not be able to get your hands on them.
Until like May.
It's a tricky situation because manufacturing is ramping up, but the demand is still so great. The demand still exceeds the supply at this point.
Yeah.
And Nintendo kind of faced that issue with the Wii. Also, it was kind of
with the Switch, yeah.
Got there the Switch as well, but more notably even the Wii.
Oh yeah, the Wii, remember for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Wii Sports.
Yeah.
They couldn't keep up, but there was also a degree of artificial stuff because Nintendo does that. I don't think there's anything artificial about this. Sony just can't keep up.
No.
Which is a good thing in some ways, but yeah, as a consumer, if you're the sort of person who's if you've missed out on the console so far, you'd be getting increasingly shitty.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to note that Xboxes still aren't selling any faster, so people aren't that shitty that they're going to go, nah, fuck it, we'll go to the shitty console.
No, fair enough.
With no games to play on it.
All right, Badge, time for the drop. What have we got for the week? I'm not even gonna ask because PlayStation haven't done it. So, what is in the Operation PlayStation drop this week?
Some cool titles, actually. So Cyber Shadow came out on Monday.
Fantastic.
A cool game published by Yacht Club. Mecha Skull's responsible for it.
That, yeah.
Really, really cool stuff there. The Pedestrian comes out January 29th.
Nice.
You remember that being debuted in one of their indie showcases a little while back.
Yep.
January 29th. Abroxia 2, February 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Lilimo Games.
Yep.
Werewolf the Apocalypse, Earthblood. That's quite a title, but I've heard some positive things about the game. February 4th.
Nice.
And the Neo Collection, February 5th.
Fantastic.
That's Neo 1, Neo 2 on your PS5. You can buy them separately if you wish. I believe there's even upgrades in place if you already own them, but you can just get, if you've just bought into the PlayStation 5, you didn't have a PS4, you haven't bought the original versions of them via backwards compatibility in any way, you can get them PS5, up-resed, upgraded, 4K, 60 frames, all that sort of stuff. Collection February 5th.
Fantastic. I'm really excited for Cyber Shadow. I definitely want to play that one, so definitely be checking that out. And there'll be a review up on the website for sure. Special thanks goes out to our Ko-fi executive producers for the month, Kat B, Drew Agnew, Brennan White, and Ewan Hosey. So thank you to those guys who have donated to dashgamer.com/Ko-fi. You too can support Operation PlayStation if you head over there and donate from as little as $2 a month. Guys, if you didn't know, this has been Operation PlayStation-Gamer.com's dedicated PlayStation podcast, where we dive deep and dirty and discover what the latest and greatest PlayStation have to offer in 2021. If you like what you've heard, make sure you follow Mr. Paul James on Twitter, at Paul James Games. You can follow myself on Twitter, at @Gamer. Don't forget to follow the show over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us a cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also follow us over on -gamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, leave us a like, and give us a comment. Surely helps us out. Padge, another killer episode.
Good again. Long one, but a good one.
Exactly. But until 2 weeks, this operation is complete.
-gamer.com